But as you're saying this, I'm thinking of something very specifically that Linda Sarsour, who I'm sure you know...
I spent an evening with Linda Sarsour in Brooklyn some years
Really?
ago. Yeah, a couple of years ago.
How did that go before I tell you my little anecdote?
I don't think we got on roaringly. I sensed some sexual tension, actually. There was a bit of sexual tension in the room. Unavoidable. But no, the fact is, actually, we're asked to debate the Kroc phantom word Islamophobia at the Brooklyn Art Museum, and I like a challenge. And I think our mutual friend Liane Hassiali was also meant to be there. But various things happened. The Garland shooting happened, and it was decided it wasn't safe for Ayaan. I still did it and things. But, the whole thing, it started off with the other side sort of giggling about the fact that Ayaan couldn't even turn up, they were sort of using it against her. And
as if Ayaan's afraid of anybody.
Yeah, I encountered Linda Sarsour before she became, as it were, infamous. And I thought she was a very nasty, very bitter, very un-American, actually. I just say that because she knows, like all demagogues, how to introduce herself, and introduce herself as a sort of proud Brooklynite, a proud American, a proud Palestinian, etc., etc., I thought in an interesting order. But it was clear that she sort of really hated America, or at least hates the America that exists currently, because it was me that ended up having to explain to the audience that, for instance, the New York police don't just go around persecuting Muslims. It's just a willful misrepresentation of the American authorities at every turn. Mm-hmm. So I thought she was very dishonest, very unpleasant. But I've come across her type all my life.
Yeah, and the only reason I mention her is because of what you said previously, which really was about assimilation. The whole point of America is to assimilate. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw that speech she gave about 2 months ago where she called for jihad, and then suddenly the left was defending the word jihad, and the white supremacists in the White House and all that. But I thought the key part of it, put jihad aside, put white supremacy aside, the key part was when she said, we're not here to assimilate.
Yes.
I thought, that is the antithesis of the American project. This amazing melting pot that we have, where we've done, for the most part, multiculturalism right, where Europe has failed in a lot of ways, and she was saying no.
No, absolutely.
Not. And I thought that was more dangerous than the other stuff.
Absolutely, of course. As you say, but put aside the fantastical idea that what she was suggesting was, you sort of have a jihad by kind of going and just really struggling in front of a Jew somewhere. I'm just struggling in front of this Israeli. It's just one having a turmoil.
Yeah.
This is what I recognised the night we met. She really doesn't like this country. By the way, we all have a problem about that. Is what you do about that. It seems to me she's a sort of very rabid sectarian sort of Palestinian nationalist who happens to live in Brooklyn. But really what you do about it is that people identified that, recognised it, and called it out for what it was, what it is, and there just aren't very many people who do that still. We all take sort of baby steps on this, don't we? As you say, you end up with the left sort of defending, well, she probably meant this, and actually, why don't you just say, look, she's not speaking as a critic of our society who wants to sort of mildly improve it. She's speaking as an opponent of our society because she doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. Now, I've encountered this, I say, all my life in my opponents, and the very close enemies I've made in Britain and across Europe, a certain type of person of that ilk who clearly speaks as an opponent of the society. They don't like it. And, of course, among other things, all you can do is point out then is to say, amazing you're here, really, isn't it?
An anti-Israeli political activist is accused of using one of America's most devastating natural disasters to raise funds for a political activist group. When America's Connor Howe has more on the public outcry she faces.
Controversy is no stranger to Women's March co-chair Linda Sarsour. The Palestinian-American activist has publicly embraced a convicted terrorist, praised Palestinians for throwing rocks at Israelis, and even called for jihad against President Trump.
And I hope that when we stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad.
On Wednesday, Sarsour came under fire once again, shamelessly soliciting donations for a liberal political group masquerading as a Hurricane Harvey relief fund. Both Sarsour's tweet and the donation page she links to suggests donations would go to relief efforts and victims of the natural disaster. Instead, labor watchdogs point out the fine print for Sarsour's so-called relief fund, saying the site makes it clear funds go to massive labor unions like the Communication Workers of America and Service Employees International Union, who reportedly spent more than $60 million on politics and lobbying in 2016. A good portion of those funds reportedly went to supporting Hillary Clinton's failed presidential run. Opponents insist Sarsour is attempting to exploit the victims of Hurricane Harvey by fundraising off the disaster. They're now demanding she stop promoting the so-called relief fund and instead divert funds to professional groups which directly help victims. While it's clear at least some of the money will go toward humanitarian aid, it's not clear how much will actually go towards disaster relief, or what those efforts would entail. Amid the backlash, Sarsour is now suggesting her critics are members of the alt-right, just like she did to CNN's Jake Tapper when he called her out for supporting a convicted cop killer last month. Sarsour has already shown willingness to use political divisions for financial gain, like when she raised $100,000 for repairs of a Jewish cemetery in Colorado, but has still not sent a check. Now, the world is learning she's willing to exploit disaster victims in the same way.